Oh, that's all. Yeah. There's more. Huh? And there's more. Where I put it? Oh.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hey, how are you guys?
Doing good, Grant. How are you?
Oh, I'm tired.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you guys hear a fan noise in the background?
I can't.
Okay, good. I've
Yeah.
got a fan on, but I'm using the sound blocking, so it seems to be working pretty well.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, no, I can't hear anything, but once more people hop on, I'll let you know if something pops up.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Now I can
Okay.
hear you.
Is that you, Branson?
Yes, this is me.
How you doing, buddy?
Doing fine. How about yourself?
I don't know. So far, so good.
Well, hey,
Still kicking, still making noise, still bothering my wife, you know.
yeah. As long as you wake up every morning, you're doing good.
That's right. Sometimes I'm not sure I'm awake.
I've been there many
Yeah.
years.
It's all a dream. That's I hope that's not the end of my life where some little thing comes across us. Ha ha, we were just joking. Oh,
Wow.
that would be so ironic. I would love something like that. I hope that happens. Hey, Branson, did you get my comments on your proposal?
Yes, I did, and I started working on those things. So that's what I've been working on. And after listening to the guy yesterday, it made me really refocus and kind of narrow it down and get more to the point with it.
Yeah, I think showing the grantor, how it meets their objective would be a really good idea. Not just how it meets yours, but how it meets theirs.
Okay.
Um, that's what they really care about, most likely. But it would be nice to have an operation like that helping folks who need it. So I hope you're able to figure it out.
I hope so too. I think it's really going to help the area.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We have a thin crowd today for some reason, but that's okay. Um, so in thinking about the presentation yesterday and the guy talking about positioning, I made a little bit of a change in what I was going to talk about today. And instead, we're gonna hear from a guy named Simon Sinek. Um, and this guy is like the patron saint of CEOs and entrepreneurs. It's if you bring it up in a conversation with a typical CEO or entrepreneur who's been out there trying to raise money or whatever, sooner or later, you're going to hear about this guy and what he has to say. And I realized that we hadn't really covered him. So what we're going to do today, it's about 20 minutes long, a little less. And this guy is going to talk to us about um, how you start with why you're doing something. And I have used this for so many years in my own thinking that I sometimes forget to mention it. And the guy yesterday really reminded me about, making your pitch relevant to the person who's listening to it. And so this is really kind of a before step. Your why comes before you do a pitch. But I thought it would be really helpful to the class. And so I'm going to share my screen and hopefully we get a chance to take a look at it. Everybody say it okay?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So where do you start when you have a program that's about integrating life's passions? Well, you start with why. Why? And that kicks us off for the first speaker tonight, Simon Sinek. in his talk, start with why.
Can everybody hear it
We
okay?
assume even we know why we do what we do.
I
But then
can.
how do you explain
Okay.
when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they seem to have something different? Why is it that Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in a pre-civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out controlled powered manned flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they didn't achieve powered manned flight, and the Wright brothers beat them to it? There's something else at play here. About 3.5 years ago, I made a discovery, and this discovery profoundly changed my view on how I thought the world worked, and it even profoundly changed the way in which I operate in it. As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You're ready to buy a computer from me. All I did was reverse the order of the information. People don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat screen TVs. They've been making flat screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products, and nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Here's the best part. None of what I'm telling you is my opinion. It's all grounded in the tenets of biology, not psychology, biology. If you look at a cross-section of the human brain, looking from the top down, what you see is the human brain is actually broken into three major components that correlate perfectly with the golden circle. Our newest brain, our Homo sapien brain, our neocortex, corresponds with the what level. The neocortex is responsible for all of our rational and analytical thought and language. The middle two sections make up our limbic brains, and our limbic brains are responsible for all of our feelings, like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision-making, and it has no capacity for language. In other words, when we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like features and benefits and facts and figures. It just doesn't drive behavior. When we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls behavior, and then we allow people to rationalize it with the tangible things we say and do. This is where gut decisions come from. You know, sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and your figures, and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Why would we use that verb? It doesn't feel right. Because the part of the brain that controls decision-making doesn't control language. And the best we can muster up is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Or sometimes you say you're leading with your heart, or you're leading with your soul. Well, I hate to break it to you, those aren't other body parts controlling your behavior. It's all happening here in your limbic brain, the part of the brain that controls decision-making and not language. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal and want to be a part of what it is that you do? Again, the goal is not just to sell people who need what you have. The goal is to sell to people who believe what you believe. The goal is not just to hire people who need a job. It's to hire people who believe what you believe. I always say that, you know, there's if you hire people just because they can do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, they work for you with blood and sweat and tears. And nowhere else is there a better example of this than with the Wright brothers. Most people don't know about Samuel Pierpont Langley. And back in the early 20th century, the pursuit of powered man flight was like the dot-com of the day. Everybody was trying it. And Samuel Pierpont Langley had what we assume to be the recipe for success. I mean, even now, you ask people, why did your product or why did your company fail? And people always give you the same permutation of the same three things. Undercapitalized, the wrong people, bad market conditions. It's always the same three things. So let's explore that. Samuel Pierpont Langley was given $50,000 by the War Department to figure out this flying machine. Money was no problem. He held a seat at Harvard and worked at the Smithsonian and was extremely well connected. He knew all the big minds of the day. He hired the best minds money could find, and the market conditions were fantastic. The New York Times followed him around everywhere, and everyone was rooting for Langley. And how come we've never heard of Samuel Pierpont Langley? A few hundred miles away in Dayton, Ohio, Orville and Wilbur Wright. They had none of what we consider to be the recipe for success. They had no money. They paid for their dream with the proceeds from their bicycle shop. Not a single person on the Wright brothers' team had a college education, not even Orville or Wilbur. And the New York Times followed them around nowhere. The difference was Orville and Wilbur were driven by a cause, by a purpose, by a belief. They believed that if they could figure out this flying machine, it'll change the course of the world. Samuel Pierpont Langley was different. He wanted to be rich and he wanted to be famous. He was in pursuit of the result. He was in pursuit of the riches. And lo and behold, look what happened. The people who believed in the Wright brothers' dream worked with them with blood and sweat and tears. The others just worked for the paycheck. And they tell stories of how every time the Wright brothers went out, they would have to take 5 sets of parts because that's how many times they would crash before they came in for supper. And eventually, on December 17th, 1903, the Wright brothers took flight. And no one was there to even experience it. We found out about it a few days later. And further proof that Langley was motivated by the wrong thing, the day the Wright brothers took flight, he quit. He could have said, "That's an amazing discovery, guys. Now we'll improve upon your technology." But he didn't. He wasn't first. He didn't get rich. He didn't get famous. So he quit. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And if you talk about what you believe, you will attract those who believe what you believe. Well, why is it important to attract those who believe what you believe? Something called the law of diffusion of innovation. And if you don't know the law, you definitely know the terminology. The first 2.5% of our population are our innovators. The next 13.5% of our population are our early adopters. The next 34% are your early majority, your late majority, and your laggards. The only reason these people buy touch-tone phones is because you can't buy rotary phones anymore. We all sit at various places at various times on the scale, but what the law of diffusion of innovation tells us is that if you want mass market success or mass market acceptance of an idea, you cannot have it until you achieve this tipping point between 15 and 18% market penetration, and then the system tips. And I love asking businesses, what's your conversion on new business? And they love to tell you, oh, it's about 10% proudly. Well, you can trip over 10% of the customers. We all have about 10% who just get it. That's how we describe them, right? That's like that gut feeling, oh, they just get it. The problem is, how do you find the ones that just get it before you're doing business with them versus the ones who don't get it? So it's this here, this little gap, that you have to close, as Geoffrey Moore calls it, crossing the chasm. Because you see, the early majority will not try something until someone else has tried it first. And these guys, the innovators and the early adopters, they're comfortable making those gut decisions. They're more comfortable making those intuitive decisions that are driven by what they believe about the world and not just what product is available. These are the people who stood online for 6 hours to buy an iPhone when they first came out, when you could have just walked into the store the next week and bought one off the shelf. These are the people who spent $40,000 on flat-screen TVs when they first came out, even though the technology was substandard. And by the way, they didn't do it because the technology was so great. They did it for themselves. It's because they wanted to be first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe. In fact, people will do the things that prove what they believe. The reason that person bought the iPhone in the first 6 hours, or stood in line for 6 hours, was because of what they believed about the world and how they wanted everybody to see them. They were first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So let me give you a famous example, a famous failure and a famous success of the law of diffusion of innovation. First, the famous failure. It's a commercial example. As we said before a second ago, the recipe for success is money and the right people and the right marketing conditions, right? You should have success then. Look at TiVo. From the time TiVo came out about 8 or 9 years ago to this current day, they are the single highest quality product on the market. Hands down, there is no dispute. They were extremely well funded. Market conditions were fantastic. I mean, we use TiVo as a verb. I TiVo stuff on my piece of junk Time Warner DVR all the time. But TiVo is a commercial failure. They've never made money. And when they went IPO, their stock was at about $30 or $40 and then plummeted, and it's never traded above 10. In fact, I don't think it's even traded above 6, except for a couple of little spikes. Because you see, when TiVo launched their product, they told us all what they had. They said, we have a product that pauses live TV, skips commercials, rewinds live TV, and memorizes your viewing habits without you even asking. And the cynical majority said, we don't believe you, we don't need it, we don't like it, you're scaring us. What if they had said, if you're the kind of person who likes to have total control over every aspect of your life, boy, do we have a product for you. It pauses live TV, skips commercials, memorizes your viewing habits, etc., etc. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, and what you do simply serves as the proof of what you believe. Now let me give you a successful example of the law of diffusion of innovation. In the summer of 1963, 250,000 people showed up on the Mall in Washington to hear Dr. King speak. They sent out no invitations, and there was no website to check the date. How do you do that? Well, Dr. King wasn't the only man in America who was a great orator. He wasn't the only man in America who suffered in a pre-civil rights America. In fact, some of his ideas were bad, but he had a gift. He didn't go around telling people what needed to change in America. He went around and told people what he believed. I believe, I believe, I believe, he told people. And people who believed what he believed took his cause and they made it their own, and they told people. And some of those people created structures to get the word out to even more people. And lo and behold, 250,000 people showed up on the right day, on the right time to hear him speak. How many of them showed up for him? 0. They showed up for themselves. It's what they believed about America that got them to travel on a bus for 8 hours to stand in the sun in Washington in the middle of August. It's what they believed, and it wasn't about black versus white. 25% of the audience was white. Dr. King believed that there are 2 types of laws in this world, those that are made by a higher authority and those that are made by man. And not until all the laws that are made by man are consistent with the laws that are made by the higher authority will we live in a just world. It just so happens that the civil rights movement was the perfect thing to help him bring his cause to life. We followed him not for him, but for ourselves. And by the way, he gave the I have a dream speech, not the I have a plan speech. Listen to politicians now with their comprehensive 12-point plans. They're not inspiring anybody. Because there are leaders and there are those who lead. Leaders hold a position of power or authority, but those who lead inspire us. Whether they're individuals or organizations, we follow those who lead, not because we have to, but because we want to. We follow those who lead, not for them, but for ourselves. And it's those who start with why that have the ability to inspire those around them or find others who inspire them. Thank you very much.
Okay. Pretty amazing. What do you guys think? What do you think, Branson? Oh, sorry. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can turn that off. Any luck?
Hello, everyone. I'm here
Sorry.
to help you design your life. We're going to use the technique of design thinking.
Hold
Design
on
thinking
one
is something
second.
we've
Sorry
been
about
working on
this.
at the D School and in the School of Engineering for over 50 years. And it's an innovation methodology, works on products, works on services.
Sorry about that. There we go.
Yes, sir. That's one of the things that I like preach all the time is what I believe in. And even like, especially with media and music, if you're not, as the kids say, rocking with it, then no one else is. So if you don't believe in it, no one else is. So I totally understand that philosophy because especially with the King thing, all the people showed up because they believed in what he believed in, not in what he was going to say that day, because no one knew what he was going to say, but it was the moment of them believing in, hey, we all can come together in a like-minded situation. And he did that without the internet and all the powerful tools we have today. Then it's a little bit simpler for us if we can convey that same energy that he gave off in the 60s.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that when you try to translate things from a level of Martin Luther King maybe down to your business or your idea, and you can translate it. If you for example believe that you know, Greenville can be the headquarters of the best music in the country. I'm making that up. But your set of values that you are espousing and other people believe that, then you will become the leader of that movement. And that movement might include your business. It might include partners. It might include other things other than the real obvious things. And that's the point that I get from Simon's comments. The why is really powerful. I'm just going to tell a story here. And I don't even know if it's true, but I've heard it many times over the years. So I like the story. Hopefully it's true. But he was talking about the Wright brothers and talking about the New York Times following this other guy around. So in New York City, on the day that the Wright brothers took flight, there was a big conference at Big Hotel Ballroom. And it was that guy that he just mentioned that was talking. And there was a bunch of other people there, and they were talking about the future of flight. That was the point. And I think it was the Waldorf Astoria, I'm not sure, but it was a big crowd. And the speaker got up and basically, he was a Harvard professor or something like that. And he basically said, this is crazy. We're never going to fly. It's not safe. And just went through all of these reasons why it was a really crazy idea. And this message and this story was on the front page of the New York Times the next day, telling, you know, what this guy thought and what other people thought. As you turn the page of the New York Times, and it wasn't the New York Times, it was another predecessor newspaper. When you turn the page, there was a little tiny article on the upper left of the second page. And the headline was, Wright brothers fly in North Carolina. So, you know, they made a big deal how it wasn't possible. And the very next page is the guy who did it. And I just think that's a great example of, you know, of if you really believe and you make that belief come true, you know, it can work. So, anybody else want to chat about it or have any thoughts? Grant, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think at least, I mean, I participated in the entrepreneurship challenge. So kind of seeing firsthand at like the different students who pitched and kind of entered and stuff, you could just see all the passion people had for their ideas. And even if it wasn't the best idea, I mean, you could just see that people were excited about it and wanted their idea to succeed. And I just think that passion is always gonna be better than money. So of course you can have an idea and sell it out to a big company or whatever, like whatever it is, like,
Yeah.
but actually being enthusiastic about what you do is definitely really important. And I know we talked about it before that kids are willing to work for free if they actually believe in your idea. And like, it just shows that if you actually care about what's going on, it's more important, and it's becoming a trend now that people will work for less money if they actually believe in the idea and the cause.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. And, you know, I think that there are lots of different reasons that people are enthusiastic about something. You know, it might be any number of motivations. And I think what Simon Sinek is saying, and a lot of people who've been through the wars will tell you, that it's the belief in what you're trying to do, not in that you're going to make a lot of money or any of the other kind of typical rewards of a successful venture. You know, it really is a movement. It's a belief. And even if it sounds, you know, silly, like, you know, you want everyone to wear striped socks or whatever, you know, I mean, it can get really crazy, but I think the really strong belief system is really needed for when times get really tough, and they will get tough for everybody who does a business or tries to. It's not easy, and so to when all kinds of things are happening to you, especially negative things, it's really great to have that well inside you, that repository of belief and faith. You know, without getting too spiritual about it, it really does make a difference between the people who who succeed and the people who don't. And from my experience, Simon talks about it in that, where the guy who quit once he heard what the Wright brothers did, and his whole objective was to become rich and famous. And when that didn't look like that was going to work out, he quit. So he didn't believe in anything other than himself and his goal to be rich and famous, et cetera. So I think that's good.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, as a student right now, like I'm looking at like 2 career paths. I can join a big company, like, and just do an 8 to 5, 9 to 5 job, or do entrepreneurship. And the reason I love entrepreneurship, like I started my own landscaping business when I was a sophomore in high school, was just because I'm passionate about it. And it's kind of like me doing what I want to do. And like I've seen people who go to work and it's just a 4-letter word and they hate their job, but it can be so much more than that. Like it doesn't have to be your only passion, but as long as it can support your passions and you don't hate it, like I think it makes all the difference. So having that little bit of passion, even if it's not like what you want to do forever, even if it's only a temporary thing, like having that passion can really make your life a lot better.
Well, I think, I had probably my best friend, one of my oldest friends, passed away on Friday. He was 65. He was an incredible individual, even if, just totally apart from the fact that we were friends. I mean, he was we met when we were 11 years old playing basketball, and we ended up going to the same university just by accident. And we reconnected there for a while, and then we reconnected more, over the last 20 years or so on a board at James Madison University, which I was actually on the board, and I was able to get him on the board, help get him on the board. So we kind of reconnected through all of that. But during that time period, he built up a marketing research company that he's really one of the world's leading experts on consumer behavior. And he did work for Toyota, Amgen, Merck, Pfizer, just an incredible company that he built himself, and made millions and millions and millions of dollars. Just an incredible success story. At the same time, he became a world-class rugby player. He actually participated on the US team and internationally in New Zealand. I mean, the guy was a phenomenal rugby player, and he actually died working out to get in shape for an upcoming rugby tournament in Aspen, Colorado. So, and there's so many other things about him, but the one thing that I can say about him was, you want to talk about true believer. This guy, there was no doubt where he stood. He'd tell you he didn't give a shit if you agreed or disagreed. His motor was powered by belief, and belief in himself, and belief in what he was doing would make the world a better place. I watch it, with my own 2 eyes. I watch this guy. He was a terrible student, not overly brilliant. I wouldn't characterize him as brilliant, but I would characterize him as incredibly passionate, incredibly hardworking, and basically saw real clearly what he was supposed to do. And he did it against all odds and incredible obstacles. So he's one person that I happen to know a lot about because I've been friends for so long. So seeing that with my own 2 eyes has really been helpful, and reinforces a lot of the stuff that we're learning here in this class. And we hear people like Simon Sinek and others talk. By the way, Simon Sinek has a whole bunch of books out, and he's got a bunch of videos on YouTube. He's a really smart guy. He actually has worked with my friend who just passed away. They worked on some projects together. I don't know Simon. I've not met him personally, but that was the kind of thing that my friend John did, a lot of that behavior stuff. Why do consumers buy? What do they do? Why do they do it? So I encourage you, if you have an interest, to find those resources, and there are others as well, as we talked about. But that's really all I have for today, unless anybody else has something they want to bring up. Is that good for everybody? We good? Okay. All right, well, I'll see you on Monday, and we've got some really exciting guest speakers that are coming over the next 2 weeks. This class will come to an end basically at the end of June. You know, we're going to try to get as much in as we can. And if you have any questions or concerns or need to talk to Grant or Marco, the interns, Randy, now's the time to reach out and get that help and see what we can do to help you. So with that, I will bid adieu and see everybody Monday. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you. And I was just going to say one thing.
Yeah.
Like for Marco and Randy, if you guys don't have his contact, then you can shoot me an email and I can connect you guys. I guess it's just Branson now, but
They're also in Slack also.
Yep, Slack too. So if you need help finding their emails or whatever, let me know.
Great.
Please send them over to me. Thank you.
You want me to send them?
Appreciate it.
Okay, perfect. I'll do that right now. Thank you.